Thank you for your interest in the 2024 Lakewood, Washington 2024 Periodic Review, and in particular, the discussion on November 15th, 2023 of changes to housing rules that are coming to the city of Lakewood. My name's Tiffany Speir. I am the City of Lakewood's Strategic and Long Range Planning Manager, and I am here as the lead staff person for this project for the city. What we're going to be talking about tonight are a number of changes to state law that affect the ability for Lakewood to be regulating and zoning for housing within its boundaries. What you see here on this slide is the state planning structure that starts with state law called the Growth Management Act. And then there are regional and countywide policies that the city of Lakewood also needs to adhere to. And then underneath those three layers, there are a comprehensive plan, which is where we see policies and vision for the city. And then there's development regulations and permitting requirements. So as the notification for this meeting indicated, what has happened at the state level are some changes to housing rules. And these rules are requiring Lakewood to make some changes to how it regulates housing. So again, what is a comprehensive plan? This is a document that contains the vision and framework for planning for growth, housing and jobs both in Lakewood over a 20-year period. So the 2024 comprehensive plan update is something where we're looking ahead 20 years into 2044 and planning for the growth and change that will be going on within the city. As that last graphic said, it needs to be consistent with the state level laws as well as countywide and regional policies. But at the same time, we're also trying to make sure that the City of Lakewood's comprehensive plan reflects the priorities of the city and is drafted to maximize health, safety, economic well-being, and keeping Lakewood a great place to live, work, and visit. So the city itself is about 27 years old now. It incorporated in 1996. As you can see on this map here with that big red line, most of the city is north of Interstate 5 in Pierce County, but we do have parts of the city that are south of the I-5 corridor, namely Woodbrook, Springbrook, and an area right above North McCord Field for Joint Base Lewis McCord. One thing of note when it comes to planning for growth in our city is that Lakewood does not own its sewer, its water system, or its power utilities. So all of those utilities are outside groups and organizations that the city coordinates its land use planning with and must be in touch with over this next year as the 2024 periodic review occurs. The vision statement that was adopted in Lakewood is here, as you see on this screen. I won't read it word for word, but what you do see is that the intention is to have it be a thriving urban city possessing core values of family, community, education, and economic prosperity. Some of the other priorities that you see in this vision statement are the excellence of education, public and private schools, including colleges, the beauty of its natural environment, including lakes and parks, excellence in municipal services, what are provided to the residents and businesses, and embracing our diversity, as well as being supportive of Joint Base Lewis McCord immediately adjacent to the city, and then those service members and families that live and work within Lakewood. Community values, again, friendly and welcoming, high quality public services, educational systems, parks, and other facilities owned by the city. Having community places unique to Lakewood, a strong local economy where people can live and work within the city, and having sustainable and responsible practices as a local government. If you were to look at Lakewood right now in terms of its land use, in terms of what are called zones that say within a particular area and on a particular parcel, only certain things are allowed to happen. This is a map that shows what is happening in Lakewood right now. So you'll see these yellow areas and a little faded yellow areas. These are primarily single family residential areas, meaning one house on a lot. And then you'll see some other areas that are either orange or darker brown. Those are higher density areas, also these pink areas in the city. You'll see blue, the darker blue, which are public areas like Western State Hospital, Pierce College, Clover Park Technical College, and the hospital close to downtown, as well as Clover Park School District. We also have the green areas, which are our parks. And then you have this big red area in the center. That is our downtown, which is a focus area for growth. And then you see this hatched mark, which is an area down by the station district, the Sounder Station, in southern Lakewood. And that is another area that's been identified as a place to concentrate growth. Overall, as you see over here on the left side, about half of the city's land is for residential purposes, and then you have other particular types of uses allowed on smaller percentages of the land in the city. These big percentages really aren't going to change over the next year or so with the new state laws that have come into being. But what happens within that 50% of the residential area is where there will be significant changes in the rules that the city adopts. We have to get done what is called a periodic review. It's an every 10-year process for the city of Lakewood by December 31st of 2024. And so this open house and information being provided right now is part of informing the public and trying to seek feedback on what needs to happen in Lakewood between now and when that plan is adopted next fall. So we will be updating the document itself. Right now we have a comprehensive plan in place, but we're going to be significantly changing the document itself. But we're also going to be talking about some policies and rules, in part because state law has changed and the city has to follow what has changed. So we have to plan for the 20-year targets for growth for both housing and jobs. We also have to look at, is there enough transportation improvements for all of that growth that is coming? We have to make sure that capital facilities, utilities like water and sewer, and other public facilities are where they need to be anticipating that growth. And another change to state law is we really have to now focus on climate change as well, greenhouse gas emissions, and adapting rules and operations to handle what's called climate change resiliency. There's a number of things that will be reviewed. So within the document itself, there are policies and regulations that will be reviewed to make sure they match state law, and in particular reflect the changes to rules regarding housing that were recently adopted by the state. The document itself, as I mentioned, will change. So right now there are 11 chapters. This will change to be 15 plus a number of appendices. Hopefully it will be more easy to read and accessible for anyone who wants to take a look at it. One of the big reasons why we're talking about housing right now is because the state has predicted that between now and 2044, statewide, across both Western and Eastern Washington, over 1 million new homes will be needed because of new growth and also because of the number of houses right now that are unaffordable to people at various levels of income. And so what you see here on this graph is for the statewide numbers that there are hundreds of thousands of units needed over the next 20 years at various area median incomes. So the amount of money people make, half are above it, half are below the number. But those numbers show you that hundreds of thousands of units are needed to be affordable for people that make those amounts of money. In Lakewood itself, we are about 20% less of an area median income than Pierce County as a whole. So for instance, if you look at a family household, the area median income for Pierce County is almost $89,000. For Lakewood, it is about $67,000. And so when we're talking about needing to plan for these different area median income amounts, we will actually be planning to the Pierce County number based on state law. So here are the numbers that Lakewood itself has to plan for. The total number of new housing units, and this can be anything from a single family house to a duplex to an apartment. We have to have the ability for 9,378 new units to be built. This is everything from people that are in what is called permanent supportive housing, people that may have physical or mental disability and are unable to support themselves. So it's a supported social services type of housing, all the way up to people who make over 120% of that area median income we were just looking at. And so along this line here, you'll see that there are, in many cases, over 1,000 units at the different levels of affordability that we have to allow in the city to be built. Some of this is going to be concentrated in those two sub areas I mentioned before in the downtown and then closer to the station district, but much of it, about 60% of it, will be throughout the city. And I should clarify that these rules are telling the city of Lakewood itself that it has to plan for, meaning it has to allow people who own property, people who live in the city of Lakewood, to increase the number of housing units on their property if they want to. We are not saying as a city, you have to go do this now. What we have to do as a city is plan for it in our rules to say you can do it, but we are not telling you as a property owner, you have to do it. That is up to you still. So two major bills were adopted in 2023, and they are now requiring Lakewood to say that within areas that are traditionally single family, one housing unit on a lot, we now have to allow people to choose, if they so choose, to build an additional 2 units if they want to on their lot, or if that house is located within a quarter mile of a major transit stop, which I'll talk about in just a moment, it can be up to 4 units in addition to the house that's already there. The other big bill talked specifically about accessory dwelling units, which are somewhat similar to middle housing, but there is a slight difference in these two bills and what the state has told the city it needs to do. But for where accessory dwelling units would go, there has to be allowed by the city, and it's up to the property owner to do this when they are ready and willing to do so. They don't have to have 2 accessory dwelling units on their lot. They can go add that many more units. So what is middle housing? It can be shown here in blue, pretty much all of the kind of housing between a house all by itself up to the high rises that you may see in a larger city or a downtown. It's those duplexes all the way up to sixplexes. It may include townhomes or apartments and cottage housing. So again, under the state law changes, Lakewood has to allow that on properties that may have just one house right now, at least 2 additional units can be built this way. But if you're within a quarter mile of a transit stop, that number can go up to 4. Here's a couple of examples of middle housing types. So a duplex, I think we're all familiar with. The fourplex may look like one big house, but it's actually 4 separate dwellings. Cottage housing down here in the middle, just smaller units, maybe around a common courtyard. And then that townhouse attached product. Accessory dwelling units, again, the city is being required to allow, but we are not requiring you as a property owner to build this right now. It's up to you on your property. At least 2 accessory dwelling units on a lot in an area that's single family. So that could be inside of the existing house. It could be built attached to it, or it could be actually a separate standing, a detached accessory dwelling unit. So all of these options also apply. Some examples, the detached accessory dwelling unit might look like a mother-in-law apartment above the garage. And here's an attached example where you've got the main house, but it has a separate entrance for maybe something that's in the basement, or it could be something up in an attic that is its own dwelling unit. So where does all of this take place and affect people and land in the city of Lakewood? This is showing you the different areas by different colors where all of those rules about middle housing and accessory dwelling units may apply. It could be in the areas that are that hot pink, which shows right now a density of about 1 unit per acre, 1 house per acre. The R2 a little bit more, 2 houses per acre maybe. R3 is the purple, and again, those are maybe third acre lots. And R4, which is the orange, that would be about 4 acres, excuse me, 4 units per acre or even more. So these are the parcels that might be affected by these new rules that would allow you as a property owner to decide to build a accessory dwelling unit or 2, or it could be one of those other middle housing units. What is a major transit stop? Right now in Lakewood, we have the Sounder Station, that Sounder location down on the southeast part of the city. And someday there is also a transit stop planned down in Tillicum. There may also be a bus rapid transit line that may come through Lakewood. Pierce Transit is currently talking about that. And so that is something that the city has to plan for as well. So this map is now showing where the 2 units per lot or 4 units per lot might apply. Again, the yellow here on the west side of the city is basically where you would have a single house and then the opportunity or the ability to add up to 2 middle housing units or accessory dwelling units. Inside this U shape, kind of inside the dotted lines, where there's orange spots, that's those residential areas right now. These are the parts of the city where property owners could decide that they would add up to 4, either middle housing or accessory dwelling units. However, on this map, you'll see there's this brighter pink color, and there's also blue hatch marks, and then there's brown areas. These are lakes or creeks or wetlands or buffers, all of which would limit where this may apply, because these are areas that are more environmentally sensitive, harder to build on, and under state law, often you cannot build the same types of things you could do in other parts of the city because of the environment on that parcel. One area of concern and where we're hoping to get public feedback is Lakewood's issues regarding on-street parking and the size of its streets in residential areas that have been built out for a long time. Lakewood does not officially allow on-street parking right now, but the state law says that the city cannot, in some areas of where these new units can be allowed, require off-street parking, meaning on the site. And there may even be, for the accessory dwelling units, there are no street improvements that can be required by the city. So there is going to be, with this new influx of housing, when it happens over time, as property owners decide to do this, more pressure for parking on the street. And so the city is starting to ask, how is that going to affect our existing neighborhoods? So this map again shows some of the same information we saw before, but in blue now, you'll see those areas where, based on the analysis that the city has done so far, and this is still draft, these are the areas where you would have 2 accessory dwelling units or 2 middle housing units in addition to the existing house on a site. The bright pink areas are, again, those areas where no building would happen because it's a lake or it's a creek or it's an otherwise critical or environmentally sensitive area. What you also see on this map, though, are these green areas, and that is where there are tree stands, particularly Oregon white oak or Gary oak stands, which the city is trying to protect as well under its tree preservation ordinance. And so the city is trying to figure out how preserving these trees will affect the housing requirements that the state has now imposed. The other thing you'll see on this map is the red lines, and these are in multiple places around in the city. These are streets that are too narrow, the way they're built, to allow on-street parking. So even if the city council was to say, we're going to change the city's policy and tell people we will now allow on-street parking, these areas in the city it's too narrow to happen. So there would need to be planning and changes to maybe how the road is designed, how it's striped, discussions about where additional on-street parking could be allowed in order to fully implement what's going on under these new 2 state bills that are changing the rules the city has to adopt about what housing is allowed. What you see in hatch marks here, again, is that U shape. And so within this U shape, this is where it would be the 4 units per lot in addition to the primary residence that's already there. And so again, there's those trees that might limit that as well as other critical areas. But this is the map that the city is dealing with right now to start to analyze exactly how these new state rules are going to apply. We are looking at where utilities are also available for these additional housing units too. Because as you probably know, when the city became a city in 1996, there were areas that did not have sewer at all. And there actually are still some areas today like that. There's also, again, the concern about street widths, the availability of parking options, and then there may be in parts of the city covenants and restrictions on property that limits the number of housing units per acre. Right now, as of November 15th, 2023, if those restrictions were already in place as of July 1st of this year, they will govern, and if they say less than the 4 units per lot or the 2 units per lot that the state law talks about, those covenants and restrictions will apply. However, there is a possibility that the state legislature will take a look at those covenants and restrictions over the next several years and make a change there. But as of today, November 15th, 2023, if those covenants and restrictions are already in place, they will trump these new housing density rules. So where we are right now is working on this process to update the whole comprehensive plan, but the big issue is the housing issue. We have a steering committee that is developing a draft that will be released of the whole comprehensive plan by next spring. And then there's also a committee that's been formed to talk specifically about updating and replacing the Telecom plan in 2024. We are hoping to hear from you. So whether you are a property owner, a business owner, an organization who's active in the city of Lakewood, we would love to be able to get from you your feedback, good, bad, whatever you want to say. We want to hear it. And what we would also like to hear is what else you want to learn about. Housing is obviously of a lot of concern to a lot of people. Parking is as well. But we would like to hear if there's other things you would want us to present about. We're happy to do that. This is our first open house. There will be a series of these between now and summer 2024. What you see here are a couple of websites where you can go and see more information about this whole process and the background behind what we're talking about. But you can also contact Ben at burkeconsulting.com or call this phone number, and please share your thoughts and also check in with them about how you may be able to provide more information to the city about your feelings on these issues and other concerns you might have. You can also, if you are a representative of an organization and would like to have a presentation specifically to your group about housing that's happening, the changes, or any of the other issues related to this periodic review, we would be happy to meet with you. And please, again, reach out to the email or the phone number that you see here in order to be able to set that up. I will say thank you. I will also direct you once more to that website in order to be able to find out more. And you can also sign up for newsletters, electronic newsletters that will come out and keep you up to date over the next 6 months or so as we continue our work with our steering committee. So thank you very much. If you have any other questions, you can also go to this website and contact me and other city staff that are involved with this process. Again, thank you very much.